Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan from RCB Radio Sport, West Clare, live at 92.5 and 94.8 FM and online at www.rcb.ie. As we look ahead to the next game in our Senior Championship preview, I'm delighted to be joined by the Doonbeg manager, Brian Dillon, as we look ahead to the clash in the Senior Football Championship between Doonbeg and Ennistymon. I suppose, Brian, we covered in RCB, we covered your game against Clare last year live on the radio. We're at the ground in Kilmehel, and I was also at your game there against Ennistymon, so I saw both of your group games. I didn't get to see your game against Rogue, but last year for Doonbeg at the start of the group, I remember watching that game in Ennistymon. You were sort of, as a panel, you were sort of decimated with injuries. I remember talking to Daniel Ryan in the lead up to that game. Your brother Colm was hurt. Joe Blake was hurt. There was a number of guys hurt, but still played on sort of hurt. I suppose this year, in terms of your panel's strength, and I know from being involved in the Clare minors for the last few years, and I had the pleasure of working with quality footballers like Ty Glillis, for example, and Kyle Killeen, and I know they didn't make minor last year, but good footballers, Rory Lynch and Queven Griffin. And I suppose for a club like Doonbeg, who've been sort of hit bad with injuries in the last few years, to have those sort of additions back into your squad, it must be a real boost for numbers and everything, and freshness of youth. And I suppose, last thing, Colm, how are the injuries this time around compared to last year? Because last year, the championship, so many key guys for the opening rounds were decimated with injuries for you.
Yeah, Jim, I suppose just going back to the Ennistymon game last year in the first round, we were struggling big time coming up to that game, and we were really concerned that if we picked up a few injuries even during the game, how would we get on really? Because Ennistymon, I suppose, had been in the county final the year before. Their underage structure is extremely strong. They're bringing through quality players. Now, at the same time, we do have some very, very good young players coming through ourselves, but they need a bit of time, because unlike maybe Ennistymon's underage players, a lot of our guys are playing at Division 3, Division 2 football. So it takes a bit of a time to get them up to the pace of senior football. But last year was tricky, no doubt about it. But I think we got over the defeat to Ennistymon. It gave us actually a month. The fact that we played first last year, it gave us a month to organise ourselves for Clare. And I felt that even though we started slow against Clare, we'd a lot of work done. Our fitness was a lot better, and as a result, our performance was a lot better. And we took that then into the quarter final, and we shocked a lot of people, I suppose, in defeating Rogue last year. But we were quietly confident going up to Milltown, playing Rogue, and just going back to the likes of Ty Glillis and Cathal Killeen and these young lads, Queven, they've been a major advantage to us this year with regard to training even, But unfortunately, due to the current situation, we just haven't been able to give them a lot of game time. And but look, they're really knocking on the door. They're great lads, and hopefully, anyway, fingers crossed, so far this year we're injury free, so that's great.
Yeah, and I suppose, Brian, you mentioned about Ennistymon's underage structure, and it served me, you can say if I'm incorrect about this, but don't you work as a secondary school teacher above in Ennistymon, so you would have coached an awful lot of those sort of young lads like Keelan Kelleher, Killian Ruan, Owen Ruan, I suppose Ross Doherty, and a few more of those would you have coached as well, so you probably have a fair idea of Ennistymon's structure. So the likes of Keelan Kelleher, if he was thrown in this year to the Ennistymon starting team, it'd be no surprise of you, because I've been coaching him, you're probably aware of him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Keelan along with Owen and Derek Keneally, Killian Ryan, I've been involved with all these guys. Ross was probably, I think I arrived the year Ross was leaving, sir, so I wasn't involved with Ross, but I know his qualities. Look, Ennistymon underage structure is superb. They've been competitive now and winning underage titles there with the last decade. So I know exactly what they're bringing through underage, and having played myself up to 2 years, I know a lot of their older players as well. So look, it was no surprise to me that they got to the county final 2 years ago, and they have the isolated players there in Ennistymon as well are a huge addition to them. So they're a top team. There's no doubt about it. So we've a lot of work to do in getting over them this year. But look, it's a challenge for our lads, and I think Doonbeg possibly play their best football when a lot of people don't give them any hope. So we're looking forward to it.
I suppose, Brian, in terms of your panel, serve me wrong, I could be correct in this, but is Shane Ryan and Shane O'Brien, are they not involved with Doonbeg this year?
No, Shane actually, Shane O'Brien is living in Dublin now with quite a long time, and he's a young child, so just with work commitments and everything else, Shane didn't play for us last year either. He transferred to a club in Dublin, and Shane Ryan, unfortunately, due to work commitments this year, just couldn't commute up and down. So he's playing with a club in Dublin as well. Okay. We also lost Kevin McInerney. Kevin has gone travelling to Australia for the year, and Kevin broke into the team last year, and he brought an awful lot of he brought a lot to the team, and he's a huge loss for us this year as well.
Yeah, I suppose, Brian, in terms of that as well, you had two lads who played part of the Clare under-20 setup this year. Sean Conway was captain, and Ty Gillis was pushing for a start as well. So having those two guys being part of the Clare setup under Michael Nealon, training all the way up, playing competitive games to January, they'll have a lot of fitness in the legs in terms of that, and they'll probably have an awful lot of doing a gym work, county session. David Tuberty involved, and your goalkeeper Eamon involved with the Clare seniors. They probably have Rob Hennessy has a program for them as well in the certain condition to fulfill for that. So those boys will be in top shape in terms of fitness, because they're following a sort of county program even while the COVID-19 was going on.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was great to see Sean and Tyg being involved with the Clare 20s. Tyg was that little bit younger. He didn't get a whole game time, but look, he's a really good player. And Sean, of course, was captain, and Sean has made huge strides over the last number of years. And it's great to see, because we went through a sort of a period there where we weren't producing a lot of county underage players, and it's great for the club, because look, I suppose we're a big club in a small parish with an even smaller population, and it's great to see young guys like that coming through. And unlike the last few years, it's great to have David and Eamon at the trainings now, because David Tuberty has been playing for Clare for well over 10 years now, and he's the type of player that these young lads look up to, and it's great to have him at the field every evening, because even training with him, marking him, it's great for these young lads. So it's fantastic for us to have these lads there. Yeah, definitely.
And I suppose, Colm, in terms of Ennistymon, when they reached the county final that year, the two prominent sort of catalysts for them reaching the final was that midfield partnership of David Fitzgerald and Cathal Malone. While it flourished that year, probably last year, David with commitments for Aina Kilnamona as such as well. Aina Kilnamona had so it sort of peaked off a bit. But in terms of yourselves now in Doonbeg, when you took down Erogue, the option of moving Colm inside to full forward, Colm Dillon, your own brother, inside for with Erogue missing Aaron Fitz, it meant that you had a real sort of target man inside her, caused dividends, caused wreck to Erogue on the day. But I suppose Colm, in terms of Colm's role against Ennistymon, is going to be crucial, because obviously he's probably needed in the midfield, but also he's a terrific asset for you in full forward as well. I know you're not going to give away where he's playing, but in terms of that, like, Ennistymon midfield, if I remember when they beat Erogue in the quarterfinal, those two guys, they are the platform, and if you turn them over like Cracklow were able to do in the quarterfinal last year, if you can sort of bypass it in the Ennistymon midfield, it sort of sets you up very nicely.
Yeah, sure. Look, Ennistymon are blessed to have the two guys centre field, and they're involved all year round with the intercounty hurlers. So their level of fitness is probably at a higher standard to most club players. And not alone that, they're two extremely good footballers as well. So, you know, you throw them into the mix along with the rest of their talented players, and Ennistymon are as good as any team in the county. There's no doubt about that. So, look, that's definitely something that we have to address looking forward. You know, trying to get our matchups around the field is important for us, but definitely their two midfielders are a major part of what they do, yeah.
And I suppose, Brian, I spoke to managers. I spoke to John Ryan of Lista Casey, Paul Madden, Rogue, Jerry O'Grady. And the one thing that struck me is every club is treating this as a knockout game. They're not even looking back door. They're not even looking at second chance and possibilities. As Jerry O'Grady said to me just in the previous interview, he said, whoever loses the first round game, they're 100% guaranteed to meet the losers of Kilmurry or Brechin or Milltown in the losers round. So that's even a more trickier game than probably the winners round as such. So it's very much a knockout sort of feel to this championship. The first game is pivotal in terms of building momentum as such. And if you win your first game, shortest route to the county semi-final, win the first game, you win the winners round, you're in the semi-final, 3 teams are in the semi-final. You can have the luxury then, those 3 teams, of going and watching that 3-way round robin, seeing those opponents play twice off each other and getting a good grasp if you're drawn against that team. But on the flip side, if you lose the opening round game, you have a mountain really to get to the county semi-final. And as managers previously said, you're probably going to meet either the losers of Kilmurry or Brechin or Milltown, and with only one to go through of that 3-way playoff.
Yeah, that's true. Look, it's a new format. It's something that, you know, we haven't come across so far. But, you know, there's pros and cons to it. Like, you could also win your first game and you could be drawn against the likes of Cratloe in the second game, or Rogue, or the winners of Milltown and Kilmurry as well. Like, and if you lose to those, you're gone. So, on the other hand, you know, a team that loses their first game could go on and win the championship. And, you know, I know last year after our first round game with Ennistymon, we had a month off, and it worked to our advantage because of the injuries we had.
Okay.
But on the other side, you know, a team that might come through the back door, they might have a bit of momentum behind them, and, you know, they could catch a team there in the next round very, very easily as well. So it depends. It depends on how, I suppose, players adjust to the training there over the last few weeks. And I think the team that can get through the championship with the least amount of injuries and, you know, they're organised, they'll go a long way in this year's championship.
I suppose, Brian, lastly, in terms of Doonbeg, you are a staunch sort of football club. If I probably look through your panel, you probably don't have any sort of dual players playing hurling or hurling club championship. And on the flip side of that, if you look at teams that are drawn out in the first round, I mean, Rogue, Clondigad, for example, even Kilmahel, Clare, I mean, even your opponents in Ennistymon will have a large contingent playing for Ina Kilnamona against Clooney Quinn. Is that sort of, in terms of, as a manager looking at that, if say, for example, Ina Kilnamona contingent, they go to war with Clooney Quinn, they have an awful tough game, is that sort of, are you looking at and say, that side of things and saying those lads could pick up injuries, or you're saying they could be tired after that game, having to go out the following week, or you're probably looking and saying, well, they've got a championship game under their belts, they have that fitness in their legs? And do you see, is it an advantage or a hindrance, or you have all your players for group training while some of those are sort of split? Or as a manager, how do you look at that the hurling championship is on the week before and some of the opposition you're going to be playing against are going to be playing in that? Do you see as a hindrance or an advantage to them, Mike?
It's hard to know, Jim, because like we've Ronan Good actually involved with us again this year. So okay. Ronan is playing with Newmarket and Fergus, but you know, we had. It's a hard one to know, because look, the guys could play the first round of the hurling championship. They could get through it fine. They've a good game underneath their belts. You know, I'm sure they won't do a whole lot with Ennistymon the week before our game. So it's a difficult one to know. I remember going back a few years ago in 2013, I think, when we got to the county final last, Shane and Ronan were involved as well, and it just so happened Newmarket got to the county final the same year.
Okay.
And I think we played a quarter final, a semi final, and a county final in 13 days.
Okay.
And the two boys played 2 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals, and 2 county finals in 20 days, which is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
now that definitely went against us that year, but there's no doubt about it. The dual clubs and the dual player in particular, it's not easy, and it especially in modern day football and hurling, because it's there's a lot more involved nowadays, and fitness, I suppose, and strength and conditioning has gone to different levels, and it's definitely harder for the dual player. But look, I suppose that's a challenge that Ennistymon and these other clubs, they're dealing with this year in, year out. So I'm sure they're able to manage their players,
And I suppose, Brian, ye hold a competition that you're very proud of, the O'Gorman Cup. And I suppose I was speaking to Kilfenora, I spoke to Liam Keane, a player from Kilfenora, and he was saying to me, since they've got back training in the intermediate champs for the last 3 weeks, and looking ahead to Kilfenora's tie against their own, that they just struggle to get a game. They sort of can't get a game in terms of their preparation for I suppose being involved in a O'Gorman Cup, you have that. So I think there's a O'Gorman Cup round ahead of championship, so so you'll have something to base your team selection on going into that Ennistymon game. You can see what lads are in form, what sort of shape they are, and you can start to pick a momentum. That must be some bit advantage. Or I don't know if you managed to get in a challenge game or two. I suppose it's very hard to get any sort of challenge game with the current conditions and stuff like that. So is the O'Gorman game for you, is it a big asset, a big advantage for you coming into championship that you have that game so close?
Yeah, I think so. Look, this year is just so strange, because in any normal year you'd have your Cusick Cup or your Gary Cup, and you'd have an O'Gorman. You'd have definitely a few rounds of the O'Gorman Cup played as well, and you'd have plenty of games and lads that have plenty of games underneath their belt, and you'd have a fair idea of where lads stand. And this year is just totally different for both management and players, and you're trying to prepare a group of guys to play championship in probably a 4 or 5 week window, which is unheard of, really. So definitely, look, we're trying to organise challenge games. It's not easy, and definitely the O'Gorman Cup game, look, it's a game, it's important, so we'll be taking it serious.
Yeah. On that note, Brian, we wish you and Doonbeg a real staunch, proud West Clare Football Club with great tradition. We wish you all the best in the upcoming championship, to all the Doonbeg players, management, supporters. Hopefully it's a prosperous campaign for you, and you get out, you achieve your stalls and what you set out to achieve in the championship. Best luck to you, Brian and Doonbeg, and thanks for talking to us this evening. Take care.
No problem, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Jim Conlan from RCB Radio Sport, live at 92.5 and 94.8 FM, and online at www.rcb.ie. As we continue our build up to the senior championship now, we look at the tie between Doonbeg and Ennistymon, and I'm delighted to be joined by the Ennistymon manager, Kieran Kelleher. I suppose, Kieran, you have great links and tradition with Ennistymon, but you're sort of new to the job in terms of you're coming back home, in terms of taking over from what was a highly successful Ennistymon management team under Ger Quinlan and Mark Shanahan that reached the county final in 2016. Obviously, reached the county final in 2018, but obviously 2019 didn't go to plan for Ennistymon. They made a very formidable Cracklow outfit in the quarter-final, and that paid heed to their intentions of getting back to county final. But in terms of last year and looking on, did you see still optimism or signs for hope going forward in Ennistymon? Because they came through the group stage fairly unscathed against the big team that reached the county semi-final, and the Clare team that improved as the championship went on.
Yeah, Jim, sure, it's due to us as new management this year. You come back over the last years, I suppose, the management that were there, they were very successful. They got to a county final, and they were beaten by Milltown. And also, I suppose, last year was unfortunate for them. We were hoping that they'd stay on maybe another year, but they pulled the plug on it. And we were asked then to go in as new management, and we said we would. But I suppose we were looking forward to the year, and what happened then was the COVID happened in March. We didn't even get to play a league match, and we were hoping to look at the players during the league and I suppose kind of give them an introduction into the format and new players and see how we could blood them and all that.
And I suppose, Kieran, like what people don't realise about Ennistymon is in terms of looking at other clubs like Cracklow, Rogue, Clondegad, Ballyea, you're very much a dual club. You have a strong contingent of players featuring for Aina Kilnamona. I know Cahill plays with 6 Mile Bridge, but you have a number of players playing for Aina Kilnamona. So managing that now, 3 weeks out, you've got back together. I suppose you still have an awful lot of players being pulled for senior hurling training with Aina Kilnamona. How's that been managing the arrangements, trying to work that out in terms of training?
Yeah, the dual players is it's not an issue. It's just that you have to look after them. Like, they're being pulled and dragged. So it's just kind of a matter of making sure that they're keeping their bodies right and they're not being overused or overtrained. And we have 6 Mile Bridge, we have Aina Kilnamona, plus we have also a junior team here in Ennistymon, and we're looking at probably 17, 18 players, dual players there. So it's just a matter of kind of looking after the players. The players come first, and how they are and how they're feeling. So injuries is a big concern because, as you know, we were in lockdown for 10 weeks, so they were probably on programs and doing little bits and pieces, but coming back now, it's fairly intense and it's a short run into the championship. So it is, you have to manage that, and especially with the dual player, it is difficult.
Yeah, and I suppose in terms of Ennistymon, you have a very successful underage academy, and you have players coming through breaking onto the senior setup. I suppose in the past you had that as well in terms of really successful underage, but you weren't able to make them transition onto the senior team for some other before work or college. They sort of left the scene. But this time around, the likes of Killian Rand, Dara Keneally, Keelan Geiler, for example, Shawnee Ruan, you're managing to keep hold of them, and you're managing them to blood them into the sort of senior setup. I don't know if Ross Doherty is on the scene for you, or Connor Dillon, if these guys are still around. But in terms of youth, you seem to be holding on to them a lot more than what you did in maybe a decade ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of young players coming through, but I suppose that's why, really, looking back, we needed a league to really blood these guys and see what they're like. It's difficult to maintain and look at players without getting them a number of games. So unfortunately, there's no league this year, so we have to kind of maybe rush them or see how they operate under pressure. But yeah, there is a conveyor belt, but that doesn't win you anything. You have to kind of manage them and see how they're going and develop them. They need time to develop like young players.
Yeah, I suppose, Kieran, you've been heavily involved in Clare underage inter-county teams in the past, and I suppose in the last year or two, maybe last 3 years, we've seen a flood of Ennistymon players being involved in the county scene, especially in 2018 and 2019, and again on the Clare under-20s we saw a good lot of Ennistymon representation. So I suppose for a management coming in terms of taking on the job, I know some of your senior lads mightn't have played an awful lot of football, but the likes of Killian Rand, Owen Rand, Dara Keneally, these guys would have played a good bit of football early on in the year under Michael Nealon.
Yeah, they had a good lot of football there earlier on in the year and did a lot of training, and unfortunately up against a good Cork team. There was promised that they were a very young side, and the most of them, I say, a lot of that panel will be underage again next year. And it was good for Ennistymon. We had 5 lads on it, and it's great experience for them. But still, it's a big step up then into the senior ranks. And, you have to just see how they go. And but look, they're gaining experience all the time. Once they're inside in the grounds or in a kind of a unit with an under 20 squad in the county, it's great. It's fantastic for them.
Yeah, I suppose your opponents, Doonbeg, I suppose when you met him, well, you weren't involved, but when Ennistymon met him last year in the first round, Doonbeg were carrying an awful lot of injuries. Some of their key prominent players, a good lot of players were playing hurt for Doonbeg. And I suppose they got the break in the second round, and the third of those injuries started to clear up on them. So even though Ennistymon were deserving winners the first day around, it was very much a weakened Doonbeg outfit. I know Colin Dillon was carrying a knock. There was a good few of them carrying knocks. Ennistymon did what they had to do. They put them to the sword. But I presume, as we saw, Doonbeg, once they got all the injuries cleared up, they proved a formidable outfit later on in the championship and took down one of the so-called favourites in their rogue. So when Doonbeg have a healthy team, they're a very much resourceful outfit.
Oh, they'll be very difficult opponents like Doonbeg. They never go away. They have the traditionals there. They have a bond. They're a very tight-knit community, and they're a tight-knit club. And they have a body players there that have so much experience, vast array of experience. So they're going to be very difficult. And you're right there. They had a lot of injuries last year. Probably now they have them all cleared up. They have plenty of time to get those players out and get them right again. And they'll be very, very difficult opponents for us.
Yeah, I suppose, Kieran, in one last thing, I suppose, in Doonbeg, I suppose Brian Dillon, the manager from Doonbeg, he teaches in Ennistymon. He would have taught an awful lot of these promising Ennistymon youngsters in secondary school. So he probably knows inside out in terms of what the panel and the resource panel of these youngsters that Ennistymon have coming through. He knows what they're capable of as well. So there's no real secrets between Doonbeg and Ennistymon. And technically, Ennistymon would have met Doonbeg in underage. I know that Doonbeg have 2 or 3 real promising youngsters coming through as well this year onto the senior setup. So that's going to breathe new life, new blood into Doonbeg as well.
Oh, it is. I've seen these young players, and I admire them. Like they're being coached very well, underage up along. So they'll be in there now with the experienced lads as well. So they'll mix well, I think, and they have a lot of prospects. They have 5 or 6 young fellas there now that will be adding an awful lot to that team. Plus, then the players that have there, they are going to be they're hard nut to crack. Like it'll be very difficult for us.
Yeah, I suppose, Kieran, when Ennistymon got on that dominant role to reach the county final in 2018, it was very the platform, the dominance of Cathal Malone and David Fitzgerald were just a brick house machine in the middle of the park. They were just on fire from the quarter-final into the county semi-final against Kilmurray Bricken, and very much in the final as well. But I suppose last year, Ina 6 Mile Ridge went far in the hurling. They got involved. Ina Kilmona started to win far in the hurling as well. I suppose Cathal and David were probably able to sustain the form that they had in 2016. But I suppose you're hoping now that they rediscover that form that they are capable of in 2016. And if they do, you'll go a very long way in the championship.
Yeah, look, it's not about individuals at all. It's about the panel. It's about a panel of players. I mean, I know the 2 lads you picked out, they're great athletes and all that, and hopefully we can have them right for the going forward, for Doonbeg and all that. But I think I always look at the bigger picture. It's about the whole panel. It's about kind of getting the panel right and getting all the players there on song and getting them ready for championship.
Yeah, I suppose one thing I remember watching back on Ennistymon last year, a notable absence. He was absolutely flying form in 2018 when Ennistymon reached the county final. Was Kevin Hare. Is Kevin Hare available for Ennistymon this year?
Hi, Kevin is training with us, yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose in terms of the panel that achieved from 2000 and from last year's panel, has there been any sort of departures? I know that some of the minors that have braved, like Owen Wren and some of those, they will probably have joined the panel. But has there been any sort of departures or people due to work commitments who have been able to commit to Ennistymon this year?
Yeah, well, we have Inda Ralph is in America. He's not on the panel this year, and Ross Doherty also has an injury too, so that hasn't healed up. So they're 2 big losses for us.
You mentioned those sort of injury concerns. I suppose you're probably back 3 weeks now, Kieran, in terms of preparation. Have you? You probably have entered. I see you've entered the O'Gorman Cup and you had a victory over Milltown on the weekend. But apart from that, have you been able to get any sort of? Have you opted to go outside the county for inter-county games or inter-county challenge matches? I suppose I'll bring you on to the format now, and the format is fairly straightforward. Every team wants to go through that front door to a county semi-final. You win your first game, it's sort of a do or die death sort of situation of the first game. But if you win that, the look of the draw in the second, the winners round, and lo and behold, 2 games, you're in a county semi-final. You're one of those 3 teams there, and you don't have to go through that arduous 3-way playoff in the loser section, where the possibility, and especially for a dual club like yourselves, that you might have to play 2 games in the space of 24 hours, a Friday and a Monday, which would be an awful lot to ask, especially with a dual contingent as well.
Yeah, look, the format is there, the draw was made, the people that made it, they put a lot of work into it, and it was, I think it's a good format, and we just have to get on with it. We're not come past Doonbeg, and that's it. Like, you know, that's our game. That's our first game, like, and that's our only game at the moment.
And I suppose we all sort of marvel at the talents of David Tubridy, and he's still year in, year out, he sort of continues to defy magic and defy age and defy further time. And I know David's still a young man, but he's like a fine wine. He seems to be getting better with age. And last year as well, even though when Doonbeg with the loss in it, he still kicked an awful lot of scores in all group games, and very sort of influential. He's almost become a sort of talisman and leader, not only a scorer but a leader as such now for Doonbeg. He's the sort of go-to man when they need a moment of inspiration.
Sure, a great time for David. He's a fantastic player, and, you know, like, really, with the injuries he had over maybe 2 or 3 year period, he still played through that and played on, like, you know. And then I think he's kind of probably injury free for the last couple of years, and he's playing his best football ever now. And he's a fantastic athlete, like a fantastic player, like, you know, going to be take watching. But like others, there's a lot of the players in Doonbeg that will be that are very, very good too.
Yeah, I suppose, Kieran, lastly, one last thing before I let you go. In terms of this year now, we've seen COVID, it's affected clubs, and some clubs have lost players, but also some players have clubs have gained players that would have probably lost. I know Corfin, obviously, with everything that happened, they managed to keep Jamie Malone, but you've managed to keep hold of a really fantastic player in Killian Rowan. Obviously, for Killian, it's very disappointing that he didn't get the opportunity to go out with Australian sort of rules in terms of the trials with everything that's happened to COVID. But Killian, I suppose, he set the championship Tuesday Cup on fire last year, but he's such a key player for you going forward, and is going to be a key guy for you in the championship. How delighted in one sense as a manager that you get to work with Killian this summer, even though probably as a player he's probably disappointed that everything that happened, that he didn't get the opportunity to fulfill an ambition of his.
Oh yeah, look, we were all disappointed for Killian when the COVID came, and he got word in that he couldn't travel. But hopefully, like, you know, down the road for his progression on that, and for future, if he ever wants to go, like, you know, and that pathway will open up again for him. And we are lucky that he's here with us, like, you know, and he's a fantastic footballer, like, you know, so it's great to have him on board.
Yeah, on that note, Kieran Kelleher, we wish you and the rest of your Ennistymon backroom team and the management a very successful 2020 championship campaign, and for the Ennistymon players and supporters, hopefully you can achieve the targets and the ambitions that you set out to achieve, and when the club championship is over in October, that you can look back with fond memories on what will hopefully be a successful campaign for everyone involved in Ennistymon Football Club. Thanks for speaking to us, Kieran, and best of luck.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Bye-bye.